This is Dateline News and Conversation. We're back together. Hendrik Weber, my dear friend from Germany, is back, and we're going to discuss three topics at least tonight. One, his opinion as a German, a European, on the BRICS Declaration from last week. We're going to talk about what is going on in the EU, especially Germany, as a result of, these sanctions and the United States really controlling Germany, controlling NATO, controlling it all. So I want to get his opinion on that. And finally, as a European, I'm wondering what he's thinking and what other people are thinking about the upcoming American election. Hendrik, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Regis. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's been a while because I've been hijacked or something's gone crazy with my my platform, and I've just figured out how to get around it, but only with Zoom. So
Okay.
you and I are both very well aware of this really historic meeting that took place in Kazan, Russia last week. What are your personal thoughts about, well, the significance of this meeting and this declaration? And, well, the second question will be, but answer the first one first. What do you think the U.S. response is going to be? Your thoughts?
Um, First of all, I have to say I'm in Germany sometimes but I have a Norwegian passport, so I see always these two countries at most. So I compare a little bit, but of course I'm a European, yeah. Um, when I read about this in our newspapers, German and Norwegian newspapers, they tell us that this meeting is not important at all. It's a meeting of dictators, autocratic leaders, and it has no significance for the rest of the world. Of course, they tell us that Vladimir Putin is making a show there to show the world that he is supported by other countries. But when you look a little bit deeper, and of course, European media is not doing this, but when you try to look a little bit deeper, then you see that this is, of course, an extremely important meeting. The BRICS countries are getting more and more. There are plenty of countries on the waiting list to be member or became member of the BRICS organization. It's already BRICS Plus, and they are representing almost half of the population of the world. And in the beginning, maybe you could say, okay, it's only Russia and China, but it's getting more and more. And I think in the next years, they are representing the main part of the world. They are only the NATO states, let us say 30 or maybe 40 states on the other side. And Europe will be the loser, of course, in this case. At the press conference in the end of this meeting, I think President Putin is being asked by a journalist if BRICS already has an organization office, or it is a loose collection of countries. And he answered that they start to organize and kind of office, a head office. I don't know where it is. He didn't tell this, I think. But so it's getting more and more a real world organization, let us say. And what's the name of this guy from FN, from the UN? I always forget his name. He was there also, and Western countries were very angry about that.
Oh, you
Uh,
mean the guy from the UN?
yeah,
Yeah,
the leader.
Guterres.
Guterres, yeah. I always forget his name. Yeah, Guterres was also there, and that was something new. So it means that this is getting really big, and we will see what happened in the next what will happen in the next years. Vladimir Putin told that they will not make an own currency, but of course they will make an own finance system and keep their currencies and will trade in these currencies. So, and that has a big implication on the US dollar, of course. So the whole world is changing with this, I
Yeah.
think, and
Let,
nobody in the West knows it.
well, the people don't, but I certainly think the
Of course.
globalists, the big money people know what the heck is going on. So uh, they really don't come out and say it, but this really is all about de-dollarization, getting rid of the US dollar. I don't, I mean, there's no mistake about it. You just mentioned that many of them, and eventually all of them, will be trading in their own currencies. I believe behind the scenes, they've figured out how that's going to be balanced and equitable. And the one thing that they've stressed over and over and over again, Putin consistently is talking about it, is the sovereignty of all countries and maintaining their own currencies, which to me is really important. But what do you think is going to happen when the dollar is replaced? And I think it's coming very soon. But what are your thoughts?
I don't know. Really, I don't know. It has, this will have really big implications on the whole world, I think. So Europe is completely blind, but Europe is not important anymore. They're only a puppet of the US, unfortunately. I hope this will change a little bit, but I don't know. If there are some politicians in the European Union with who think a little bit by themselves. I don't know. Um, yeah, what will happen? The dollar, when the dollar is not important anymore, the whole US will crumble because the only power in the world is based on the dollar. With this vehicle, they can dictate all other countries what to do in their foreign policy, but also in their internal policy in some cases. And this will completely change. And I think more and more countries, the whole Africa and so on, maybe South America, will looking to the BRICS and think for themselves, is this not an alternative a way we could go? Because in this case we are independent, but we can trade with all important countries in the world, not with the US and not with Europe, but who cares? So the cars are not coming from Germany anymore; they're coming from China. And I don't know what the US is producing on industrial products or things somebody want to have. Nothing.
Not much.
Um, they have the iPhone and some good computers, but they are assembled in China anyway. And China has or Korea has plenty of alternatives for mobile phones, for computers, for chips, for all this electronic things. But the really implication when the dollar is losing its power, I don't really know, because it has so many. It goes so wide and it has so many implications. I don't can imagine.
Yeah, you know what? I firmly believe and have for maybe a couple of years now that the United States economy is in a very steep and rapid free fall decline. $35 trillion national debt, and the payment on the interest each year is like 1.5 trillion. That's not sustainable. And I have friends who I talk to quite regularly in the United States are saying inflation is higher than it's ever been. they have a hard time affording food. And these are not poor people. These are people who are like middle class, who had apartments or homes. The price for gasoline is $4 and $5, I understand, in some places. They're coming up on winter in, well, the Northeast and the northern states like Nebraska, Oklahoma, South Dakota, North Dakota, Wisconsin, Illinois, all these countries, they're going to have a hard time paying for fuel bills. And so, on top of that, Hendrik, and we're going to talk about this in a minute, you've got this crazy, insane chaos going on over this upcoming election. So, I think, Hendrik, that Putin and Xi and all these other leaders and wannabe leaders, and there were some 20 or 30 attendance of high-ranking people and presidents and prime ministers from other countries who were there. When they see the United States and its economic, its social, its cultural, its morality all collapsing, they're just, I think, trying to wait it out. But I have to ask you this, because this has been my question now for the last 5 or 6 years. What will these globalists do? And they are globalists, financial people, extremely wealthy people. What will they do when they realize they've lost this epic battle for control of the world? Will they take us all down in a nuclear Armageddon? What are your thoughts?
That's a good question. I don't know, but I think they will go very long when they realize that they are losing power. I think they don't care about their citizens. I don't think they care about the rest of the world. I don't think they care about Germany or any other European country when it comes to their power and their money. Then they are going very, very long. If this ends up in nuclear war, I don't know. But I would not say that, sometimes this reducing of population, there is this topic, of course, that the higher class want to reduce the population in the world, and you can say, okay, it's a conspiracy theory, or you can discuss it in another way. Okay, but I don't think they care at all of 500 million Europeans or 300 million American citizens, as long as they have the power over the rest who is again, they will do whatever they can to keep their power. So I don't really can answer this question. It's a really difficult question.
Yeah, but the media in the United States have been they've been raising this issue of nuclear war because of the tensions that exist right now. Even here in Russia, my goodness, several high-ranking people, including Putin and Lavrov and Medvedev, have been talking about being on hair trigger alert with their nuclear arsenal because they feel the threat directly. And just this past week, Putin ordered nuclear exercises for their entire nuclear triad, their land-based airplanes and submarines, to practice and do a drill. I wonder why the rest of the world is not concerned about this. Like we were in the entire world. I was alive during the Cuban Missile Crisis. We thought it was going to be all over any time. We might not wake up the next morning. So I'm very concerned about that, actually. And I know, these people have used the atomic bomb. They used it on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They have developed chemical weapons. They've biological weapons. They have the power to use electromagnetic pulse China has it, Russia has it, the United States has it. I mean, all of this stuff should have people not sleeping at night, but I don't think they have a clue.
You are completely right. But I always, in all our topics we are discussing, I've always come back to media. Media is not telling us what's going on or not telling us the truth. I know plenty of people here in Germany, for example, when I talk to them, they don't know that there are nuclear warheads stationed in Germany,
Yeah,
2 hours from the place where they live. They don't have an idea. And it's not Germany who has the red button. It's, of course, the US
yeah,
who
yeah,
has the red button. And the retaliation will not come to Washington. It will first come to Germany because they are stationed there. And the people don't know. So media is not telling about this. In Norway, we had a tradition, or not only a tradition, it was based on law, that there would not be stationed any foreign soldiers on Norwegian ground. Everybody was happy with this, but slowly in the last years we changed this. And now nuclear submarines have the right to come to a harbor in Bergen, in my town where I live, or in Tromsø, a little bit more north, and the Norwegian government don't know if they have nuclear weapons on board. It's it's completely crazy. And if you ask them, they say, "Yeah, we don't know, but the U.S. government or Pentagon or whoever said they would not." Ah, yeah, okay.
yeah.
So normally there would be demonstrations the whole time in the city or wherever, but nothing happened because media is covering this completely.
Yeah, and it's the same.
And
It's the same thing in Sweden and Finland, and
yes,
everywhere. And of course, the media, as you and I both know, are all owned by the same handful of these globalists. So they control the message. And if you control the message, you control the minds of people because that's where they get their information.
of course, of
It's
course. But people don't understand or have any idea how media works. They told me, "Yeah, but why should the media lie about it?" So you have first to understand how media works. Who is financing the newspaper? And this is not only one newspaper. There is a one oligarch who owned 20 newspapers.
yeah,
And he is, of course, a friend from our governor or head of state or whatever. And they get paid again back for advertising, state advertising, for example, in the corona pandemic times. So, but people don't understand. People have no idea how media works, and that media, of course, has an own idea what to promote and what not, where you have to be careful and what you can write. And as long as this is a case, then I think nothing will happen.
yeah, I
Nothing.
agree. I don't think I can only talk, I think about the United States, but I haven't lived there for 5 years. But before I came here to Russia, I was very involved in the Occupy movement. And I thought, wow, every state in the country, thousands and maybe millions of people totally involved. And they shut it down over one weekend after 11 months. They absolutely shut it down. And now I don't sense that the American people have the understanding and the desire and the will to rise up. And here they are now fighting over who's going to be the next president. We'll talk about that in a minute. But Hendrik, I really am curious to understand how ordinary Europeans are dealing with the boomerang effect of the sanctions, how they're dealing with the blowing up of the Nord Stream pipeline. You're in Germany, you have to know exactly, and I really need to know. And you're my only friend in Germany right now. So, what's happening first in Germany economically, in terms of industry, in terms of the people? Are they protesting? Are they just taking this, sitting down? What's going on first in Germany and then, as far as you can tell, across the European Union?
So the Nord Stream 2 pipeline was, of course, a project between Russia and Germany. And since it is blown up now, I think everybody in the whole world knows who was it, but only not the Germans. They are completely blind. The only people in the world who have no idea who does it was is the Germans, unfortunately. The German government don't want to say anything, and even if the parliaments who have the right to ask these questions ask the government say we cannot say it because it's the safety of the country, so it's under a lock or
It's
something.
classified. It's classified.
Classified, yeah, classified as top secret. Even not the parliament people, somebody there, government has the right to ask. Oh, you can ask, but you will not get any answer because it's a security of Germany depending on this classification. And there is the same thing. Media don't tell anything. And since the special military operation starts in February 22, the government was very good to tell all the Germans that everything what happened in Germany is Putin's fault. So if there is a car crash in Germany, it is Putin. If the cat is disappeared, it was Putin. The gas prices, of course, is Putin. Everything. And it's really easy normally if you go a little bit into details to find out that this has nothing to do with the gas prices, for example. That Putin never said he would stop delivery. That Maria Zakharova, in an interview for 2 months ago, said we need 2 to 3 weeks, then we can open the last pipeline who's still working. If Germany wants, but they don't want. So it's really easy to find out that the gas prices could be much lower. But when I talk to some people, they say, no, we cannot buy gas from Putin because he's making this war. And I say, okay, now we are buying gas from Qatar. We are buying gas from Azerbaijan. Are these democratic countries? Yes, no, not of course not, but it's even better than Putin. So it's so crazy, this whole discussions. And then we go on and say, okay, now we are buying gas from India. Germany is paying 10 billion euros each year, and what's the name for this money? Help the economy grows in India. I don't know the word. Doesn't matter. So Germany is paying such kind of helping money for India, 10 billion a year, and buying gas from India. And where does it comes? It comes from Russia. So we are paying it doubled and 3 times and 4 times. I don't know. It's so completely crazy, but people don't realize that
Yeah,
because
I'm
media is
really,
not telling it.
and I'm really surprised. It's the same thing that's happening in the United States. The facts are right in their face. But as you said, it's Putin that did it. It's Russia doing it. And they're already complaining in America about this upcoming election that Russia is interfering. Oh my God, that was proven false, 4 years ago and then 8 years ago. So, what do you think is the situation across the rest of the EU? Or is everybody in the same like mental place? It's Putin and Putin and Putin.
In Germany, it's a little bit special situation because it's combined with this green change development mentality, or you can almost say a religion. to save CO2, and the rest of Europe don't have this in this not like this in this strange way, to close down, to shut down all the factories to save CO2. France, directly on the border, is building nuclear power plants. Then they are depending on this, and Germany is the only country to shut down everything. So it's crazy. All the companies are disappearing from Germany. And when I talk to for my own country in Norway, we are in a very good situation, because only one day after the pipeline Nord Stream 2 was blown up, only one day after, Norway opened the pipeline to Poland to send them gas. And of course, Poland is selling this directly to Germany. So for us in Norway, it looks very good.
Yeah.
But there you see that something is going on. It is not. Of course, it is planned. Everything is planned. The destroying of Nord Stream 2 has a connection to the pipeline in Norway. It's not possible normally that one day after they're opening a new pipeline. It's everybody should see this, but
You
nothing happened.
know, one of our friends and colleagues from Italy, Stefano Valdegambieri, has been conducting a incredible campaign across Italy in some of the major cities with big billboards and these big signs on moving vehicles that go through the cities, and it's saying we are not enemies with Russia. And he's been opposed. He spent a lot of his own money on this, but I think he's done an incredible job to try to wake up the people in his country. And he's been doing this now for several years. Hopefully, we'll see him this coming week in Moscow when we all gather for our annual forum. But I don't see this kind of effort happening in any other places.
No,
Yeah.
Russians are the enemies. Not only President Putin, but also the normal Russians. I've traveled very often to Russia, and when I'm back home in Norway, there are several people who recognize me from newspaper articles and so on the street. And when I talk to Russians or people who are living in Norway with a Russian passport, they say it's a terrible situation. We almost cannot speak Russian outside because people are looking, are you a spy or what are you? They have problems when they talk about Russia at their job. People are suspicious when it's a boss in the company or something. Maybe you are a spy. Nobody will tell you, but everybody, but they have at least the feeling that something has changed dramatically. It's not so easy anymore as a Russian to live in Scandinavia, for example. I don't know how the situation is in Norway, in Germany. Germany has, of course, many Russians or another connection to Russia, because many people from Russia after the Soviet time moved back to Germany. But at least in Scandinavia, it's not easy for Russians or people with a Russian passport. They are married to Norwegians or something, but it doesn't matter. Things has completely changed since the special military operation starts.
Hendrik, we've been talking about the fallout across the European Union uh, as a result of the sanctions and the blowing up of the Nord Stream pipeline and the domination that the United States apparently has over all of the European Union. But there have been two people in particular, Mr. Orban from Hungary and Robert Fichu, and I'm sure that's not how they pronounce it, and also
Pizzo,
Pizzo,
Pizzo.
Pizzo,
If
uh,
it's
and also
ri-
this Mr. Vucic from Serbia have been indicating that there's some disagreement, some cracks in the EU. Uh, do you think they will be? Well, they tried to assassinate Fichu. Uh, what do you think is the significance? And is it of any significance that at least these three are now beginning to speak out?
I think so. So Viktor Orban was on his trip to Zelensky and Putin. After that, he was in China, Washington, and of course, the European Union and the leaders there, they get completely mad about this trip. What he has done, he has destroyed our community as Democrats. He has talked to Putin without contacting us before. It's not possible to talk to him, and so on and so on. I think he has done a really, really good job. And you can say about him whatever you want, but this was brilliant, I think. Um, he has used this opportunity to travel to these leaders, talk to them, and find out a way. And there was the same there. No media reported about this. What was really going on there? Why he has done it? There was only one journalist with him from Switzerland, Roger Köppel. He was also in Russia several times this year, I think. He's really good. He was invited to join Viktor Orban, and there are several interviews with him on YouTube where they're sitting together in the airplane on the way to Moscow, and this journalist asked him, why you are doing this? And the only time where you hear what Viktor Orban really means, what he want to try. And you can agree or not agree, it doesn't matter, but it was at least real. After his trip, he was asked, of course, by several journalists, but these questions was always silly, out of, completely crazy. It has nothing to do with the intention of this trip. It was always the same. Why you travel to Putin? You know he has started the war, and you cannot talk to him, and ba. And but the positive thing after that is, I think, that several people in the European Union and also some bureaucrats start at least speaking about a solution. This was not possible before because nobody has an ass to to travel to these leaders to talk to them directly and ask them, is there an opportunity, is there a possibility at least to start a ceasefire? And Viktor Orban was really clear. He said, I was not there to make a peace agreement and discuss all these kind of things. The only question is there a possibility for a ceasefire at least? And then we could go on in a kind of diplomatical way. So I think the result of this trip is that at least the European Union and some other leaders in different countries start to talk about a diplomatic solution for this war. This was not possible before, I think. And the other two from Slovenia and Slovakia, I think and I hope that there will be a crack in the European Union, that they get more supporters from other countries in the European Union, so that maybe something changed there, because the European Union is rubbish. It's a shithole. Let us say this.
Yeah.
It's against the citizens of Europe. This has nothing to do. They are sitting there in their own world and turning around themselves. It has nothing to do with the real problems of the people who are living in Europe. And I hope this will change.
Yeah, well, obviously I do too. Um, Having had the opportunity to study in Italy, in Rome, for 4 years, and traveling throughout a lot of Western Europe. Unfortunately, I didn't have the time to get to Scandinavia, uh, but I really appreciated the cultures of the individual countries and the sovereignty. I mean, you had to have a passport at that time, and the currency was different everywhere, but so many people just went, oh wow, now we have the euro, now we have this Brussels government. But in my opinion, and I stand to be corrected, but in my opinion, when the European Union came in, the individual countries lost their sovereignty. They lost their vote. What are your thoughts? Do I need to be corrected on this?
No, I think you are right. I think the European, what's most important in Europe are these different cultures we have. Each and every country almost has a history of 2000 years, and that is fantastic. I don't want to have the same when I travel from Scandinavia to the south of Europe, to Spain or Italy or where else. I don't want to see the same thing. I don't want to see the same food, the same stores. I want to see these other culture, uh, and that's the main thing in Europe. And we are completely Europeans are not the same. They are completely different in south and north and east and west. Scandinavians, even if we are almost direct neighbor to Germany, but we are different from German culture, and that's fine, fantastic. We have no problem with that. And trade, of course, should be possible, and it works. It's without any question. We have not had a war in Germany in Europe the last 80 years, and I think even if you shut down the whole European Union in Brussels, we will not have a war between France and Germany again, at least not in the next years. So, European Union is not necessary at all in this way we have it now. It's okay to make trade deals, maybe European trade deals where all countries are invited and they have a commission to talk about this and that and different problems about trade, taxes or whatever. But that's not the European Union. The European Union are going in each and every country in small things, and they're destroying the culture of these different countries, and that's very sad. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's segue to the third question I wanted to discuss with you. I haven't done a show on America and elections. Um, and I'll tell you why and tell the audience why. The last time I voted in the United States was for Obama, the first term. Hope and change you can believe in. And as soon as he got elected, everything changed, but for the worse. He bombed 7 countries, boom, one after the other. He used to brag that on Tuesdays, they had these meetings when he would decide who was going to be killed. And he came out and he said it, I'm pretty good at killing. And I was so turned off, but I also was awakened to the fact that the presidents in the United States are not elected by the people. They're selected by these very powerful globalist interests, financial interests. And I've not voted since, and I'm not voting this time either. So I really have not wanted to get involved in all of the noise that exists now in this echo chamber of the 2024 election coming up in 4 days. No, today's the second, third, fourth, 3 days. It's
3 days. Yeah.
3 days. But because I'm talking to you, my friend, I'd like to know what you think when you look at this American election. And I don't know how much you're hearing about it, but I know that from what I read, a lot of European countries are very interested in who's going to be the next president. Uh, you got Donald Trump, who has been having these rallies with 20 to 30,000 people showing up. You don't see much about this Kamala Harris. And depending on whatever newspaper or whatever outlet is doing the polls, it's either neck and neck, or I heard yesterday Trump said, I saw a short clip, he feels that he's way ahead in the swing states that have the most electoral votes. But as a European, as a German who's been living in Norway, how do you see this American election, this one right now?
When you're in Germany and reading the newspapers or hearing politicians there, you could have the imagine that Germany is one of the states in the US. I think this is a little bit special in Germany. They have the arrogance to tell or to talk about these elections or who should be elected as they are US citizens. It's unbelievable sometimes. And of course, in our media, Trump is the worst character who can vote as a president, and Harris is smiling so nice, and that's why she should be elected. It is also there. It is crazy.
Wow. Wow. So
um,
you're talking about the German people. I mean, in the newspapers, what they're reporting. So Trump is a monster. I mean,
of
he's
Of course, of course. It was already in his first term. There was the Spiegel, normally a serious, or for several years, let us say, a serious news magazine. And on the cover there was the face of Trump, drawn like a fireball, flying towards the earth. So it's it's a hype. It's completely crazy. And you can ask each and every child who will be the best president, and they say not Trump, they say Harris. And then you
really,
ask them, and then you have the feeling, of course, they have no idea of politics. How should they know? But everybody knows because it's like a propaganda all over. Trump is an idiot. Trump has a strange haircut. Trump is old and had a strange woman, and they are always younger, and blah blah blah. All this kind of shit. But if you ask them, okay, give me 3 reasons why not Trump, then there is coming nothing.
yeah,
Like always, it's the same thing with President Putin or whoever. When you ask them, give me 3 real reasons, something you can prove, then there is coming nothing. Yeah, but he want to build a wall. Who has started this act to build a wall? It was Obama, I think, not Trump. So, okay, Germans are a little bit special in this case in the European Union, I think. But it's also an arrogance, I think, and that's not so nice. Okay, you can have your opinion, but if politicians go out and tell this openly, that it's for sure the only solution for the US is Kamala Harris. Okay, you have no idea, and in the European Union, I think the most people have no idea what's going on in the US, how people live there. The only thing we know is Hollywood films, and we're knowing a little bit the East Coast, New York or something there. The whole country with 360 million people or 350 million people, you know it better than me. We have no idea what's going on there and how people live in this big country. So normally we should shut our mouths and keep waiting what's going on. But if you ask me after my personal opinion, I'm of course for Trump, and that's not why because I think Trump will change the whole world and everything will be a paradise. But I think the European leaders are so afraid of Trump because you cannot have an expectation what will happen when he is elected. I hope that European leaders or in the different countries, they are coming to the idea, okay, we have to start to make our own foreign policy in the world. That would be the best, and that is for me the only reason why I think Trump would be the best president for us.
Yeah.
But that's only my personal opinion, of course.
No, and I appreciate that. And what I'm going to say is not an endorsement of Trump, because I think it's really tragic that the United States has descended so low with the political rhetoric from both sides, with the cheating that the Democrats have done for the last number of years. There's no doubt about that in my mind. But I will say this about Trump. Trump is a businessman. He's not a politician. And Trump is concerned about, when he says, make America great again, he wants to have equal trade relations with China, with the rest of the world, fair from America's point of view, not a trade deficit. I agree with him when he wants to bring Apple and John Deere Tractor and so many other American companies that left the United States, left millions of people without jobs, lest the entire steel industry go to crap. He wants to bring them back, and if they won't come back, he's going to put a tariff on all of those imports. I agree with him. I really do. And I'm really angry, and I was angry when it started with Clinton, with NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement with Mexico, and how many jobs were lost. I traveled to Mexico across the border to see these maquiladoras. They're manufacturing what we manufacture just across the border, and now the stuff comes back cheaper, but Americans lost their jobs. He's right when he talks about that, I think. And the other thing, Hendrik, and I want your opinion on this, and you recall very well, when he was president 8 years ago, he met with Putin in Helsinki. They had private meetings. Nobody knows what was said, but they had a joint press conference when both of them came out and said, we are going to be working together on many levels. We're very pleased with the beginning of this dialogue, this discourse, which hadn't existed. And Hendrik, I believe Trump was sincere. I believe Trump wanted to have good business relations with Russia, fair trade with Russia. And he was so pissed that the Democrats had blamed Hillary's loss on Russia when he knew it was a lie. So I want your opinion on this. Do you think that Donald Trump will try to reestablish that relationship that he had with Putin in Helsinki? What do you think?
It's also a difficult question, I think. On one side, okay, he's a businessman, and I think he can talk to Putin. That is not a problem. And Putin is also a man you can talk to, find fast, good solutions when it when it is positive for the country, for his country, Russia, of course. So I think these two will manage to find a way to work together. But we are in a complete change in the global system, so that is a question. I think in the last years, Putin, of course, or the whole Russia was depending or looking towards the West, but we don't want them. We push them back. So the only solution he had is to went towards China, and now they have the BRICS countries developed, or the BRICS organization is developing, and it will continue the next years. So it is not so easy for Russia or Putin to you have to balance between both sides. I think he would say yes to good relations to the U.S., but there will always be the thing in his head. Can I really trust them? What is when the next president is coming? Can I trust the U.S. a long time? And I don't think so. China is a partner you can trust. When you make a deal with them, China is thinking 50 years ahead, not to the next elections. They have their plans for 50 and 100 years ahead. So it's really visible what you are going to and what you will get in the future. But there we're coming back to this peace trouble from Viktor Orban. Viktor Orban said when he come back, the reason why he want to act very fast is because when Donald Trump is elected, he will find a way to end this war in Ukraine. And then the European Union or all European countries are completely out of the discussion. Putin will go to Trump will go to Putin and they will find a solution to end this war if both want. That's why Orban used this time to make a deal, or not to make a deal, but at least to bring the European Union on the table, that they could be a partner for a peace agreement or at least a ceasefire. Because Viktor Orban, I think he is the same guy in Hungary as Trump is maybe in the US. But Viktor Orban is looking for Europe and his own country. And it's nothing bad with this. It's expected. So he wants to have this deal done before Trump is elected, because he's afraid that the US will take this away from this whole issue with Ukraine, take them away from Europe. And I see this will happen. Sorry. So Trump is at no question, I think. He can talk to Putin and they will find a way to work together. How does it develop? I don't know, because the BRICS organization is coming very fast already, or a long way.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you on the last statement. BRICS is coming along really fast. And I think they've done a lot of work behind the scenes on just how the economic, financial transactions are going to take place. But you know what worries me about Donald Trump? He is such a threat to those global financiers, the power people who don't control him. And I think they controlled him the last time, but this time he knows who they are. He knows what the game is. And they've already tried to assassinate him twice. And this is my belief, and I'd like your opinion on it. They killed John F. Kennedy for a variety of reasons, but he went against the Pentagon. He went against the military. He wanted to break up the CIA. He wanted to have relations with Khrushchev and Russia, get rid of nuclear weapons. Behind the scenes, he was trying to work a deal with Castro in Cuba. And they just couldn't tolerate this, and they killed him publicly. And for these years, some 60 years, they have terrified and owned every president that succeeded John Kennedy because they knew what would happen to them. I think when Trump returned from Helsinki, the entire media was against him. Putin's poodle, John McCain, Lindsey Graham, and others accused him of treason. And within a very short period of time, he changed from this openness towards Russia, with Russia now is an enemy that has to be contended with. 180-degree shift. This time, he's 77 years old. He does not appear to be afraid. But I'll tell you what, if he's elected and if he goes ahead with everything he's planning, is diametrically opposed to what the globalists want. And he risks being assassinated. I really fear that that is a possibility. What are your thoughts?
That's, of course, it's a possibility. I think he's not afraid about it. He will do the job when he's elected. But of course, there is a possibility that he's been assassinated. I don't know how he's standing towards Russia at the moment. I'm not following so exactly. But when I hear J.D. Vance or himself, then it now shift more towards China, against China, of course. I think in his first term, he overlooked completely the importance of this Ukraine thing and how deep the Biden administration was involved there, and how connected it is to internal politics in the US. I think he has had no idea at his first term. I think now it's different, of course, but I don't know. I'm not so into U.S. politics, but I think what you also said, that many middle class people, the workers, all will vote for him because they have no job and the prices are rising and they have their normal day problems, and Trump is the only one who can solve these problems, I think. He has not this kind of woke agenda. He's not for the Green Deal. Okay, he builds Green Deal power plants, but only if there is coming money out of it. On the other side, he says, "Drill, baby, drill." So, and people are happy about this because that's their own everyday problems. They are not caring about CO2 in 100 years, and if in 150 years the world temperature will go up 1 degree. These are problems for people who are a little bit crazy, or of course not crazy, BlackRock and all these kind of things standing behind there and financing all this. But this will crumble because you cannot develop an economy on this Green Deal ideas, and it's almost a religion. As I said, Trump is also against all these woke LGBT plus things we are dealing with in Europe. So I think most people will vote for him, and I hope so.
Yeah. And, I'm sure, Putin has said many times, it doesn't matter who's the president of the United States, nothing will change. They know. But I am absolutely sure that Putin, Lavrov, the rest of the diplomatic people, his advisors, understand what is happening with this election in the United States and what Donald Trump is promising. And you and I are going to be, I hope, in Moscow on the 5th. The election, we will find out on the 6th, maybe. The prediction here is it's going to be so close. And even if it's not that close, it's going to be contested that we may not know for weeks or months who's president. What are your thoughts about a country that can't count the votes, can't count the ballots. What are your thoughts?
You only can laugh about it, but there is the same thing. If you try to find out, okay, everybody knows that this voting system in the US is really complicated, and how they count the votes is a really crazy system. I'm not an expert about it. But when I then hear people in Europe say, "Oh, in Russia everything is cheating on ballots and so on," no, turn around, look in the other direction. Um, but here it's also the media. Media is not talking about it. Media is not asking this question why they have this kind of strange ballot system in the US. So I'm not an expert on this, but I've read and heard a little bit. But nobody knows. Nobody knows. So that's why you can continue in this way, and that's why you can cheat on all the votings, and we will find out what. And in the end, it was the same thing in the last election. Everybody goes to sleep, and then the next day, Biden was president. Even if the evening before he missed millions of votes or something like that. It's a crazy, strange system, this U.S. voting system. Maybe you, but I think you know much more about it.
Well, I can tell you this. I think no matter what happens, there's going to be violence in the United States. And I'm not the only one predicting this. I've been predicting it for several months now, but now it's getting out there that both sides will contest. And I do believe that Trump's backers, and there are many that are armed, and I really believe these people believe Trump, the election with Biden was stolen from him. They believe that in their hearts, and they're going to believe it again if it's stolen and goes to Kamala Harris. There will be pandemonium and violence across the United States. We'll be able
Mm.
to talk about this maybe in Moscow when we're there later this week. Hendrik, thanks so much for joining me. We'll see you in person in just a few days.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you and goodbye.